Hello and welcome to the CinemATL podcast for March 2018. I am one of your hosts, Michael D. Friedman.
I'm your other host, Martin Kelly.
And the CinemATL podcast is a monthly, semi-monthly podcast that examines the world of entertainment through the lens of local Atlanta filmmakers.
That's us.
That's us. And we say sometimes because we're sorry there was no February. No February. A
little snafu with the Olympics.
Yeah, a lot of work to do, so we had to just ixnay the February one. But,
that's cool.
You know, we're back for you now.
Yeah.
And so you know, if you want to, respond to us about this podcast, or you have any feelings you want to share with us, you can feel free to tweet us. You can tweet us at CinemATL, or myself, you can get me at Badger33.
Or me at Marte_real1.
And we encourage you to, comment on Twitter at those accounts, or you can comment on Facebook,
SoundCloud, iTunes. Wow,
YouTube.
iTunes doesn't have a comment section.
I don't think so. No. They might. I don't know. But anywhere you listen to this or see this, feel free to comment. We want to hear what you have to say.
And share with your friends.
Sharing is caring, people.
Or share with your enemies if you really hate us. Then inflict us on your enemies.
If you think we're really bad, just go for it.
Exactly.
Kind of like glitter. We're like the glitter of podcasts. People either like glitter a lot, or they hate it so much they want to send it to their enemies.
And is it weird? I'm in the camp. It's not that bad, and it's not that.
I hate glitter.
Oh,
but anyway.
Okay.
So there you go. Here's a review of Glitter.
Your very brief review of Glitter.
Not the movie starring what was her name?
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey. But the actual Glitter. Anyway. We're off to a solid start here.
I know. Very good. Well, if you don't know, what we usually do is we do a brief introduction.
We don't normally talk about glitter.
No, exactly. Not right off the bat, at least. But now what we do is we do a brief introduction, and then we do industry news.
Yep, and then we follow that with a top three.
And the top three is our personal top three. It's not supposed to be some objective top three. It's our personal top three, and it's usually related to the movie review that we're doing for the month.
Yes, and so this month we are doing our top three movies directed by women.
Correct.
Which ties into our next section, which is the big movie review, and we were reviewing Wrinkle in Time.
The big movie released from Disney.
Which was directed by Ava
DuVernay.
So that's where we tie in.
Correct, yes.
It's all about symmetry.
Exactly.
And then normally we do a technique topic, and we have struggled to come up with a technique topic this month, and
so we
might surprise you.
We might surprise you with a
technique topic,
a potpourri of topics or something like that.
Or we may just skip it.
Yeah, we may do something else.
We're just winging it here today. Yeah. We're trying to be
spontaneous.
Yeah,
that's what
fun.
It is. And then after the technique topic, of course, we always close the show with 3 rounds of the movie game, which we'll explain the rules when we get to that point. So,
and Martin usually wins it, but
you always you make me feel bad every time.
That's my plan, is to make you feel bad, so you throw it for me.
Because people actually tell me that I need to let you win, and I'm not gonna let you win because I know you wouldn't appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the fact that you do not let me win.
Good.
All right. Well,
so let's jump right into it.
We can jump right in. Let's go on to some industry news. All right. Industry news.
Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, normally we talk about what's out there now. So I guess. Okay. We don't really have anything brand new that's out there that from Georgia, shot in Georgia.
Yeah.
We're talking about movies that were shot in Georgia, or TV shows that were shot in Georgia. But I guess we want to give people a reminder of some of the stuff that's either out there or coming out soon.
Sure.
And we start with Atlanta on FX, which
of course
we've mentioned, I think, the last 8 podcasts. But it's
finally
out. It's finally out.
It's finally out again. Robin season,
and I've watched the first 2 episodes. They've been really good. Just as entertaining as the first season.
Yeah.
So kudos to
them.
And
I saw the director Mariah mention that people have been complimenting him on the look of the show, which it has improved since the last time, and so it looks even better. So, the show was always cool and good, but now it even looks even better. So, congratulations to that crew.
And then another show that's out right now, The Resident, which premiered on Fox in January. So that's another one to look out for.
And a lot of people really like that show. I haven't watched it myself, but I've been hearing good feedback from like coworkers. So,
and you can see the High Museum as the hospital.
Exactly.
And the High Museum also played into a movie that is out right now called little movie that you might have heard of called Black Panther.
I know that
the High Museum stood
amazing.
in for a
Did they let them
British museum where all the Wakandan artifacts.
It's amazing that the High Museum let a little production like that.
They're nice.
Use the location.
They like to give back.
That's
right.
right.
To give back to the community.
Well, of course, Black Panther. We do, on all seriousness, have to mention that Black Panther is pretty much the biggest movie ever made in Georgia.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of response it's gotten.
Over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion worldwide box office already.
Yeah,
and still going.
Still going strong. It's #1 this week.
And just amazing that it's even, caught on in the Asian markets and Europe, and it's overwhelmingly being positively received, not just because it's a awesome Marvel movie, but it's also kind of a groundbreaking film for African American like hero super. It's like the first time we've seen this type of movie. I mean, at this level,
at this level, of course. But they're already forgetting what my man Wesley Snipes kicked off with Black Superheroes and Blade. Okay,
but it's but it's like the overall Black director, mostly African American cast. I can't speak today. But it's just a big cultural phenomenon, and it's great. It's great to see that this is celebrating.
Yeah, it's a great cast too. Everybody in the cast is really good.
Yeah, and the movie is it's a fun movie. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just Marvel, so it's good.
Marvel strikes again.
Yeah. And speaking of Marvel, we have Avengers: Infinity War is coming right on the heels of Black Panther.
Exactly.
It's actually they moved up the date from March 4th to April 20 something.
Wow. Okay.
So it'll come out even quicker. Like a week before they originally were planning on it.
Okay.
So that's coming to theaters.
Another Atlanta gonna be
filmed probably movie. A little tiny indie.
It'll make a splash.
Art house film. And then another one that maybe might not be so excited about is Rampage coming out from.
Oh yeah, we mentioned it before. Rampage. It's another, and believe me, we love that he's here all the time because we're going to talk about him in a minute as well. But Dwayne Johnson, another movie filmed here in Atlanta called Rampage, and it's based on a video game,
based on the 80s video game,
and
loosely.
Oh gosh,
loosely based.
Way loosely. It looks really terrible, honestly. But hey, I haven't seen it yet. So to be fair, I haven't seen it.
The trailer, so who knows? Speaking of trailers and stuff, I'm going to go off on a tangent. Sorry, but have you seen the Ready Player One trailers? It makes it look really awful. Like it just does not look good.
But the South by Southwest preview screening had garnered really wonderful reviews.
And I'm a Spielberg fan, so I'll probably still see it, but it just does not look good to me.
Some of the first one looked pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Now, since then, I haven't really been paying that much attention to the trailers because I'm like, I'm going to go see it.
Well, that has nothing to do with Georgia. I just thought I don't know. I just thought I'd throw my opinion out there willy-nilly.
If the box office dips in Georgia, we're going to blame you, Mike.
All right. So moving on to stuff that's actually filming now.
Yeah.
That's not coming into theaters soon, but will be coming maybe in a year or so.
One that I'm really excited about is called Gemini Man, which is a great pairing of director and star. It's Ang Lee directing Will Smith. And I don't really have any plot details. Have you heard about it?
I have not heard about it.
But that's exciting.
This is the first I'm hearing about it.
Oh, okay.
You broke the news.
I don't think I broke it. But
you need to fix it.
I'll repair it. Minor repairs. But no, I'm really excited because I'm a big Ang Lee fan.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a Will Smith fan for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Will Smith's pretty solid usually.
Yeah. Did you watch Bright?
I have not seen Bright.
Not speaking of tangent. Okay. I like Bright.
I've seen Wild West, though, which is about
Will Smith. Well, that's a long time ago. But Bright, a lot of people don't like, which I kind of liked. So
Yeah, I've heard negative things about it, which is probably why I haven't rushed out to see it yet.
Gotcha.
Well,
Well,
not to see
you
it,
don't got to
but
go anywhere to see it.
rushed out to my Netflix,
To your queue.
my HDMI to.
All right. That's again. Bright wasn't filmed.
I
here,
did
so.
see. Speaking of Netflix,
Oh.
I did see the Cloverfield Paradox the day
I
the day
did too.
it premiered. I saw it the Super Bowl weekend
Oh, I didn't
or
watch
Super
it
Bowl
then.
day.
I waited a little while.
I stayed up late to watch it, and that was a big mistake.
Yes.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Let's not talk about Cloverfield.
So other things that are filming now. How about this movie called Hellfast?
Hellfast, I believe the producer is familiar to Georgia, Gail Ann Hurd, who, of course, one of the executive producers on The Walking Dead. And I don't have any other details about it. It sounds a lot like a horror film, so I would assume that. But, that's an interesting title.
We made an assumption about that Eli Roth movie that's filming here that it was going to be a horror movie, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a horror. It's got
It
horror
may not
element,
be.
but-
Correct.
So never assume because it makes
It does
an
things to
ass
you.
out of you.
And me.
No. Instant Family is another film shooting here with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne.
Yeah, Rose Byrne. We talked about her a lot because
Yeah.
She's a great comedic actress for sure.
Yeah, I loved her in Spy.
Spy,
She was good in
and,
Neighbors. She was good in that.
Neighbors, and even Bridesmaids, of course.
Oh, yeah,
fantastic
definitely.
in that. So that should obviously sound like a comedy because Mark Wahlberg.
You're assuming again.
Again, I'm assuming.
Instant Family.
I'm making leaps.
Could be a horror movie about a family that gets trapped in a Polaroid camera.
Well, this one I actually did hear plot
okay.
details. So this is about a family getting overwhelmed by adopting kids.
Oh.
So
Well, that makes sense. That
does
like
sound a little bit more like a comedy,
They
right?
could play that dramatically, though. Too.
You
They
could.
get overwhelmed.
That's right. They could be overwhelmed.
It could be horror, too.
I mean,
The-
in
like
real life-
the adoptive kids become evil and overwhelm them.
On the screen, being overwhelmed is funny. In real life, it's not.
And then, finally, to wrap up, I mean, there's a lot more productions than this
Sure.
going on. Let's just
Plenty
caveat that.
of them.
But this is the ones that we've heard about recently. Jungle Cruise with your boy.
Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt. And if it sounds familiar to you, you've probably been to Disneyland or Disney World, and this is yet another movie that Disney is adapting from one of their theme park rides.
Okay. I mean, cool.
I don't know.
I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean was a good
Was fantastic,
adaptation,
right?
but then like Haunted Mansion was a piece
not.
of crap.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. There's been other ones adapted from rides, right?
Yes,
Maybe.
there's been a few. There's been
like-
a few.
Oh.
Like,
But yeah.
World of Tomorrow.
Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. That's adapted loosely.
Yeah. So yeah, they're hit and miss on that. So we'll see. But I like Emily Blunt.
I like Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, in general, I don't necessarily like his movies, but I like him.
Well, you know what? It's funny. Another movie that we didn't talk about that's in release from Georgia is Jumanji, which is doing very well. It's just
Yeah,
being
that's true.
overshadowed by Black Panther.
Yeah, was actually just coming out on DVD next week.
Yeah. So
So look for that. And so yeah, like I said, there's more than that going on. There's at least over 50 productions going on right now. So
Right.
if you want to get involved in, helping these productions come to life, we recommend that you go to the Help Wanted hotline at georgia.org.
Correct,
And
yeah.
do a search there for
Yeah.
information on how you can apply to be part of these productions.
because the ones we talked about that are filming, they are still looking for crew and likely cast. So, definitely, if you're interested,
You could
give
be
them a
one
look.
of the people overwhelming Mark Wahlberg.
yes.
All right. So the next news topic we have is a little thing called.
Well, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about. There's a couple other things happening, right? You were in production on a St. Patrick's Day special of the infamous, in a good way, Lumber Baron.
So the topic that I was about to get to involves the Oscars, and I actually missed like the first half of the Oscars because I was busy shooting this. We did a St. Patrick's Day special shoot for the Lumber Baron of Jasper County, which is.
I honestly was a little offended that I wasn't invited because I'm sometimes on that show.
sometimes. But yeah, we shot just a special. Hopefully coming out.
It better come out in the next couple of days.
Tomorrow, maybe, hopefully. But for those of you that don't know about it, Lumber Baron of Jasper County is a web series that we did 3 seasons of, and then there's been numerous other specials that Dave Watkins, who is the creative mastermind behind it and director, he produced. I have not actually been involved with very many of the holiday specials, but I was bored, and he asked if I wanted to do St. Patrick's Day one, and I said yes, and we kind of have like a mini Lumber Baron reunion with the original main cast returning.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, that sounds good. That makes me even more jealous.
Yeah. But yeah, so check that out hopefully soon. And then another thing that Dave's been working on is a web series called Herman Jones, which should be being released soon as well.
Yeah, so look out for that. That's another Georgia production.
And that's a little bit different take from stuff he's done.
I think it's totally different.
Yeah, it is. It's totally different. It's not the comedy. We do know that it's not comedy and actually is more suspense / horror.
Yeah, psychological thriller-esque, that kind of thing.
So that's a new web series that's coming out soon.
Yeah, so look out for that.
So, now that we've segued around there,
now we can talk about something on a national level, right?
News, one thing we wanted to, you wanted to mention this.
What?
I take no blame for this.
Here you go.
Inclusion writer.
Well, that was a big topic at the Oscars. Of course, Frances McDormand won Best Actress, and part of her speech, she left everybody with one thought, which was called inclusion writer.
And then millions of people instantly went to Google and
they figured out what that was supposed to be and what that is, and nobody had ever heard of it until she said it, apparently. And now it's trending. And since then, several people have pledged to having inclusion writers on all their productions. So
for those that don't know what an inclusion writer is, it is a writer in a contract that basically says that you have to hire X percentage of minority cast and crew or female cast and crew. It could be whatever you want. It's just a writer that encourages inclusion into the film production. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I'm still a little confused about where the inclusion writer goes. Like, who decides on the inclusion writer?
Yeah, I think it's something that, like, just the way I've interpreted it is something that she isn't going to encourage all of her productions to add this to her contract, which says that if she's going to be in your movie, you have to have this percentage of people of color or female or whatever.
Does the person who insists on an inclusion writer decide what that makeup becomes?
I would think so. I mean, I think it would be one of those things that you would negotiate in a contract.
Well, I mean, this is what's problematic about it is that I want to hire Mike Friedman, but Mike Friedman says I'm going to dictate exactly the makeup of the cast and crew.
Yeah.
But what if I've got a script set in...
You have to decide whether I'm worth it or not, right?
Like, what if my script is set in Iceland, right?
Well, then it probably would be stupid to include that as an inclusion writer.
But what if you insist on it?
Then you would say no, and I would not be hired.
Well, I'm just saying...
I'm assuming that's...
I get the sentiment. I get the sentiment, but it's like, I'm still confused about how this actually works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, if there are any lawyers out here that know how it works, please let us know exactly what it is, because it is kind of an interesting topic. It goes back to the point of like how. I mean, I'm all for diversity and inclusion, and I think it should be definitely looked at. But at what point do you need to like legally enforce it? Or should you just be doing it because it's the right thing to do, right?
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's the preference, is that it's just something that happens organically, right? Obviously, the argument is that it's not happening organically, obviously.
Yeah.
However, look at the Oscars this year and what a celebration it was of A, diversity, and B, inclusion of women in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that happened before anyone ever mentioned inclusion writer, right?
That's true.
Are we sort of trying to overcompensate and
Maybe.
then make it something that's not an organic movement?
Could be. I mean, I think And you don't really know. I don't really know what Frances McDormand was thinking when she mentioned that, but like I could see it easily being like her rationale being, I have enough power now to make a difference,
and she feels a responsibility.
And she feels a responsibility to do this, so therefore she was going to look at adding it, and maybe, and you know, she might not be an all or nothing person either. She might, you know, in your situation, if you're filming a movie in Iceland with Icelandic people, yeah, maybe she wouldn't claim to say that you'd have to have, you know, 50% African American. You might have to have 50% African American crew.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all up to the individual film, but like then, yeah, where's the line drawn, right?
And I might say something that people will be upset about, but do you think there was an inclusion rider on 3 billboards?
Probably not. If she said she didn't hear about it before.
Do you think there's ever been an inclusion rider on Coen Brothers movies? I
don't know. I have no idea. But I would think no.
Yes, I think no.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, this is like, make it happen by getting the right people in the right positions and doing it and making movies like, you know, that we've been making that have been celebrated. I mean, look at, you know, honestly, my favorite movie, which didn't win, was, you know, Lady Bird. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Let's make more movies like Lady Bird that are very successful, so more women get a chance to write and direct movies.
Or more movies like Black Panther.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it, and I understand. I see both sides of the argument, and you know, it's kind of like the affirmative action laws that exist. It's like, you know, what point should we just do the right thing and then not have to legally bind? Because like you said, I don't want to make this like totally trite, but like when you said, you know, you should let me win at the movie game, like I don't want to win because you throw the game for me, even though I joke about it.
Right.
Like anytime I play hockey or whatever, like I don't want to win because somebody's dicking around doing something else. I want to win because I deserved it.
Right.
So it becomes a question of you earning your spot, right?
Right.
But then, you know, traditionally people have been held back because they haven't had this opportunity. Like, how do you open that up? And you know, I think an inclusion rider might be a good idea, but I don't think necessarily it should be a mandate.
Right. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea in certain cases, but you know, I don't know if it's sort of this sort of mantra that they're expecting everyone to have an inclusion rider across the board all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the way Frances McDormand said it leaves a lot of room for interpretation, right? Like, did she want it? Does she want it on everything, or was she just saying, "Hey, people in Hollywood, you've got this power. Make sure you use it."
Yeah, and I agree if that's the statement, but the way it was taken, I think, is more what, you know, what I thought was a little strange is that this is like, now let's adopt it forever, always.
Yeah.
And I think what she's saying is, if you feel strongly about it, you can do something about it. And that's the way it should be done. Like, if, you know, I would probably want to do it if I was able to, you know, break into a higher level of movies, just because we've always been inclusive in terms of our productions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Is like, I would want that to happen if we were able to step up into the next level.
Yeah.
So I would probably take it and want to put it in a contract. But, you know, again,
I mean, if you're already doing it, it doesn't need to be in the contract. That's the question, right? You know,
well, that's what I'm saying is it shouldn't. But what happens? Here's the one case is like, what happens? Let's say Real One Entertainment, which you know the makeup of Real One Entertainment, we step into the next level, and then they try to dictate like an all-white crew or an all-white cast to Real One Entertainment. That's not going to work.
That would definitely not.
See what I'm saying? That's not going to work for Real One Entertainment. So we might have to insist on something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think it's appropriate to be just like, let's go and call it mandate.
No, definitely, and I don't think anything should have a mandate on it. But I think inclusion rider is something that's negotiated, right?
Sure,
I would assume
it would be. It would be.
So I said I'm not a lawyer, but it's something that you would, and so the director or producer would have to, you know, agree to it.
Sure.
But then negotiated. And I think most people are smart enough to be like, you know, hey, we might not be able to fulfill everything of your. Maybe we negotiate a different, you know, like maybe we're not going to hire this many women in the cast because it's basically a lot of male cast.
Well, it's a war movie. It's
but we'll agree on to hire more female,
right?
On the camera department or whatever, So I think it's a good thing overall. I think it's worth discussing.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's good.
All right. Well, I think we've talked a lot of news, so much so that we might actually have to forego the technique topic this week. But before we get to that, we have to get to the top 3. All right, well, the top 3.
Yeah, so that brings us to the top 3.
Yeah, all our talk about inclusion and stuff, and female directors and everything. So we're going to talk about their top 3 movies that we like.
Our favorites.
Favorites by women directors.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about it in, we always ask this question, but how are we going to do the order this time?
Let's just start at the bottom. We'll do our 3 and then we'll go up.
Okay.
We'll each do our third one.
Gotcha.
So your third ranked movie would be?
Clueless.
Clueless. Good movie. Not on my top 3. And we'll discuss after we go through this. My third is actually Billy Madison.
Nice. Billy Madison.
It's not a great movie, but it's one of my favorites. Which was directed by Tamara Davis, by the way.
Tamara Davis. Okay. Oh, yeah. And Clueless was directed by Amy Heckerling.
Amy Heckerling, yeah.
Yeah. So my number 2 movie is Bend It Like Beckham, which I may butcher her name, but Gurinder Chadha is the director.
Yes. So not only a female director, but a
British of Indian descent.
Yes. So a lot of diversity. My number 2 is another movie which I wouldn't claim to be a great movie, but a movie that I really love is Wayne's World by Penelope Spheris is the director of Wayne's World.
Yeah, Penelope Spheris. Did she direct both of the Wayne's Worlds?
I don't think she did the second one.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
She did a lot of comedies, actually.
I tend to forget the second one.
Well, true. So my number 1 is Whale Rider by Nikki Caro. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right either, but Nikki Caro.
That's one movie I have not seen yet, and I've heard good things about it, and I would like to see it eventually, but I just have not.
It's a fantastic movie.
And before we discuss it more, I'm going to give my final top movie is Strange Days, which was directed by Kathryn Bigelow.
And, Strange Days was one of the ones when you first proposed this to be our top 3. That was one of the very first films that came into my head because I love that movie too.
I love it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. I've got issues with it because of the time setting of it, but we can go into more discussion of it later. But I really like the movie just as a sci-fi action film. It's really good. And
that's Kathryn Bigelow.
Yeah.
And I almost had Zero Dark 30 on mine. So.
And it's funny because out of the movies that we mentioned, for me, none of these are critically acclaimed movies by any stretch of the imagination. So neither of us had Zero Dark 30 on our list, or Hurt Locker, or some of the more, or Selma, or some of the more acclaimed. They're all really good movies. Yeah. They were kind of my honorable mentions.
Yeah, definitely.
And
I even saw last night a great female director, Cassie Lemons, but I saw her in Silence of the Lambs. Of course, she did Eve's Bayou, which is a wonderful movie too. But so that was in my thoughts, but I didn't pick it as one of my top 3.
I find it interesting to me that in a lot of these movies, so it's interesting. You pick your Clueless, Bend It Like Beckham, and Whale Rider are all very female-centric movies.
True.
With a female director, and mine are all very male-centric. Billy Madison, Wayne's World, and Strange Days. Strange Days has got Angela Bassett in a very strong female role, but it's interesting that
it's probably how we thought about it. I like how you thought about it because it's just you love those movies that happen to be directed by women. I do love these movies.
Yeah.
But I also picked them over some of those. And this, Clueless is different. But
I almost felt guilty about picking Billy Madison and Wayne's World just because they're
such dude movies.
They're just they're dude movies and they're just silly, funny comedies. But these are Wayne's World. I must have seen that movie 10 times in the theater when I was a senior in high school when it came out. Right. And it was the movie that everybody in our high school loved. And then Billy Madison came out when I was in college, and it was a dumb, stupid movie. Right. It was just funny.
But I think that's great that you picked those because you picked your favorite movies. They happen to be directed by women.
Yeah.
Right?
And these are actually some of my favorite movies of all time. Not
right.
Yeah.
And I'll say honestly, these are very high ranking, but they're not my favorite movies of all time. So I went to it a little level deeper, thinking of like what were really, good movies by women directors, and I just did gravitate to the ones that had a female centric point of view.
I mean, part of me wanted to say Zero Dark 30 just because it would make me, it's a better movie quality, just like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, like I didn't want to feel. I think it's great that these movies, that you don't associate them with female directors, but they were directed by females. It's kind of. And it just kind of proves to some people. I think a lot of people think, "Oh, woman's directing this movie; it's going to be all girly and whatever." It's not. It's just and that's the whole point of having more diversity involved in Hollywood in general, is that women can do just as good a job directing a dude movie as a dude could do a female director. You know what I mean? Like definitely. It's like So, I don't know, for some of the people that might not, for Whale Rider, what made that your number one?
Well, Whale Rider, and when I thought about it, and I want to put it on my number one, Whale Rider is a beautiful movie just altogether. It's a coming of age story. It's set in New Zealand.
New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Isn't it about like is she like Maori?
Yeah, she's Maori, and she is coming from a traditional Maori upbringing and sort of being torn between that world and the modern world, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So she had a lot of respect for her grandfather, and then there's the story of the whale riders, and there's just a beautiful sort of history in the movie, and it's like another movie that's always in my top 5 movies, which is Dances with Wolves. Mm-hmm. So it gives you that same sort of feeling of just a real deep appreciation of learning about a culture, and in a beautiful movie, overall. So that's why it's in my top. And again, a coming of age story too, which I'm a sucker for those. I like those.
So for me, my top pick was Strange Days, and if you're a sci-fi fan and you haven't watched this movie, I recommend you go check it out. It might be a little dated now, but it was almost like, and this is why I was saying I had a problem with it. It was almost dated when it came out, because it came out in 1996, and it's about Y2K, basically. It's about it takes place on New Year's of 1999, and the technology is so far advanced that there was no way it was going to happen those 3 years in those 3-year period. Like, even when it came out, it was like, yeah, right, this is really going to happen on 1999. But if you get past that, and like the 1999 New Year's Eve thing is kind of almost inconsequential to the movie. There's some things that make it good, that it's set at that time for a reason, but it's not really totally consequential to the movie. Right. The movie's just more about, it's like a mystery about a murder, using like these devices that could record people's thoughts, and like, so you could live people's memories, basically. Yeah. So it's just a cool movie. It stars Ray Fiennes in it, in the lead role, with Angela Bassett, and a really good, strong woman supporting Rose. She's the badass of the group.
She protects him most of the time.
She's like the bodyguard for him.
Exactly.
And it's also got Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis, playing a rock star.
It's just it's a cool movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Got a little bit of cyberpunk to it type.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's honestly, a great movie that I like, which borrows from it, but that was borrowing probably from the source material, is Minority Report.
Yeah.
Some of the
it's all that cyberpunk era type stuff. And then the other two I mentioned, Wayne's World and Billy Madison, they're just fun movies.
Sure.
They're eminently quotable. Quote them all the time. Right. Shampoo is better. I go off first and clean it. But yeah, so it's interesting in that you don't really. I don't really see this. There was a lot of women directing these comedies back in the 90s and late 80s, and then it kind of went away, and hopefully that comes back.
Yeah, I mean, Tamara Davis, she directed CB4, and and a couple of other movies similar, just sort of just fun movies. Yeah. You know what I mean? And why aren't there women directing those fun movies now?
Yeah, it's like almost like it almost became like this taboo thing that women weren't funny. Like what?
that's the whole age old argument. Women aren't funny, that kind of thing. Which brings us me to, I'll talk about Bend It Like Beckham, again, set in England, Indian community, right? And it's about soccer, which I'm not a huge fan of soccer.
Yeah.
So, but it's a great movie
Yeah.
because it's, again, coming of age story. See, again, I'm a sucker for those.
Martin's a sucker for coming of age.
Fantastic sort of.
Clueless is a coming of age movie too.
Totally, exactly. But I like coming of age movies. But this one was unique. Obviously, unique setting, and great performances out of the cast.
Well, yeah, it was also like Keira Knightley's like
Her coming
first
out party,
big
basically.
role,
Yeah. And again, it was just
And the main girl wasn't the girl in it, the main character. She ended up being on ER,
for a
and some
while.
other things.
Yeah, I'm blanking on her
Yeah,
name at the moment. I
she
didn't
was
write
really
it
good
down.
in it.
But yeah, she was great in it. And Reese Davies, what's his name?
Oh yeah,
Andrew Reese Davies.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a cool movie and about soccer. It made me like soccer
yeah.
for a minute.
And then quickly before we have to wrap it up,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I guess we should probably just list our top three again. So your top three were,
Whale Rider, Bend It Like Beckham, and Clueless.
and mine were Strange Days, Wayne's World, and Billy Madison.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen those movies, we recommend you go check them out.
Definitely.
And like we said, there's some other great honorable mentions that you should look out for too. So,
Especially Whale Rider because I know it hasn't been widely seen.
yeah, I haven't. I know what it's about, but I haven't seen it. Yeah, and it's one of those movies that like I always meant to get around to. And I
Right.
haven't done it. But, all right, well, we're running out of time there, so we need to jump on into the big movie review.
The big movie review.
All right, so big movie review is
Yeah, so this week it's A Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time.
From Disney. It's a reboot, I guess.
I don't know if it's, well, I mean, it's based off a book. I've never.
They've done a movie, Wrinkle in Time, before.
I mean,
I don't
so is it a
remember
reboot if it's based off a book? If both of them were based off the book?
I guess it's a
I don't know.
remake. Is it a remake?
I don't know. Anyway, it's directed by Ava DuVernay,
DuVernay, yes.
who gained notoriety mainly through Selma, the movie Selma.
She did a.
Well, she did the documentary.
No, she did a movie called Middle of Nowhere, I believe.
Yeah.
Which was the lead, the mother in Wrinkle in Time played the lead in that film. It was a festival.
Middle of Nowhere, yeah.
Middle of Nowhere. And David Aiello was in that.
Yeah, and then she like went on to help create Queen Sugar,
Yeah.
as well. But Selma was like her big,
Yeah, that was her big
breakthrough
break.
role,
Obviously,
where she was,
Oscar
like,
nominated
for an Oscar.
film.
But the documentary I was talking about is 13th, which was also
Right.
nominated for an Oscar.
Right, that's true.
She was producer on that.
Okay.
But anyway, so she's gotten a big reputation
Absolutely.
in Hollywood. So The Wrinkle in Time was kind of a big a movie that a lot
She-
of people were
well,
expecting big
I mean,
things from.
If you remember, she was in talks to actually
That's what I
direct
was gonna
Black
say.
Panther, and then she actually
It's kind of
decided
interesting that
against it.
she's kind of like competing, not really competing. I mean, they're set a month apart,
Right.
release dates, but
Well, it ended up being
beaten out by Black Panther.
it got beaten out by Black Panther, but it also became this 1-2 punch
Mm-hmm.
that's never happened before. Is two black directors have the number
that's
number one and number two film at the box office. So that was an interesting, milestone, I guess, this
Mm-hmm.
week. But it's kind of funny that she could have been the director of.
Yeah, I find it interesting,
Black
and based off of watching Wrinkle in Time, I'm glad she didn't do Black Panther because I mean, well, for one, I think Ryan Coogler did an excellent job on Black
Right.
Panther, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't like A Wrinkle in Time.
Wow. Okay.
At all.
Wow. You're.
I'm just gonna get right to the point.
You get right to it because not many critics are actually saying that, and that's we'll talk about that part in a minute.
Yeah.
I did not think it was a very good movie,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it was a bad movie.
I'm not. Let's see, like, what is bad?
Well, I'm just saying. Okay,
Like, it wasn't like unbearable, but I would definitely say it's not a good movie.
right. Well, okay. I see. This is where I say is like, I would say I wouldn't go far as saying it's not a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would because it's not a good movie, but it's an okay movie.
Yeah.
It becomes one of those. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's good things about it. There's bad things about it. So that's just
Let's talk about who's associated with it.
Yeah,
first.
so one of the other big attachments to this is Oprah Winfrey, who plays Mrs. Witch in the movie. So Reese Witherspoon is also, and Mindy Kaling. They played the Mrs.
The Mrs.
And this, and so if you're not familiar with Wrinkle in Time, which actually I was not, I've not read the book.
Right.
But it's basically a story about a young girl loses her scientist father. He gets lost trying to explore time, not
Well,
time
it's
travel.
basically dimensions.
Dimensional travel, like folding space time.
Yeah, and that's
which
where
they call
time comes in.
tessering.
Yeah, yeah.
Tesseract.
Yeah.
So he gets lost. He's played by Chris Pine. The girl is played by Storm Reed.
And Storm Reed's an Atlanta actress, actually.
Oh, that's good to know.
She was great in the movie. That's one thing that I will say. Storm Reed is great.
So yeah, so in the movie they get these celestial beings. They're Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, and Mindy Kaling come to help guide her to find her father.
Sure.
Who is for some reason.
Yeah.
Which I'm still not entirely sure what that reason is.
Okay.
That's part of my problem with the movie.
Okay.
Well, okay, so there's this big giant force out in the universe who's like evil and
it's invading more of the universe all the time.
But what does her father have to do with it? Like,
well, he's
sorry, I don't want to go off on a tangent. But
well, it's part. Okay, I mean, I know the answer to it, but see, if I give you the answer to it, it's almost spoilery, right? If I answer these questions for you,
I don't want to go too far into spoilers. I'll tell you. So I'll tell you part of the problems I have with this movie. One is character development.
Okay.
I have no idea who these characters are or why I should care about them beyond the periphery glimpses we get of the main character Meg is fairly well developed, but the other characters are not, including her younger brother,
right?
Charles Wallace.
Charles Wallace.
Charles Wallace. They have to say his entire first and middle name throughout the entire film. He's not very well developed, and that becomes important later on, where he becomes really vital to the film,
right.
And so you kind of like why do I care about this person besides the fact that I know he's smart? There's another character who joins them on their journey, who's a friend of
Calvin. Yes,
there's Calvin. Who is not developed at all. He's
one
deeply in love with Meg, but you don't really know why.
Deeply in love? I wouldn't go that far.
He's enamored with her.
He's enamored with her.
He's just met her. Like, you talked to her the first time, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to travel across the universe."
What do you mean he talked to her the first time? They go to school together.
It looked. I mean, the way that it was developed to me, it looked like they not really.
Man, I didn't know I would. I didn't think I would be defending it this much. Honestly.
But yeah, so that's part of the problem I had with it. It's character development. The ideas that are behind it aren't fully explained. The whole idea of this tesseract and the tessering and all that stuff. Like, how did Chris Pine's character get lost in the universe? He wasn't really doing anything. Like, it's like there's, and then there's like, and apparently this is a lot. I've read a little bit about like how the book differs, and apparently this is a lot different than in the book. Like, the book explains it a lot better and things like that. And in fact, they've always said that the book was pretty much an unfilmable book. Right. And maybe they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. Now. Yeah. The other problem I had with it was that I just didn't like the direction of it. And this goes back to like, I don't want to speak bad about Ava DuVernay, but I just didn't really feel like she fit this material. And that's why I was saying, I'm glad she didn't do Black Panther, because the action sequences in this film, I have totally lost in this film, like when things are happening, where I am in space. She sets it up, like there's so many close-ups that take place that you don't even know where your characters are at, like amongst these big action pieces. Geography. There's like a point where they're told to where there's this big storm coming, and they're told to go over the wall, and you have no idea what wall they're talking. You don't see anything. You don't see this wall until late,
much later,
and you don't know which way they should be running. You don't know where things are going.
Yeah, and how they figured out which way they should be running.
Random stuff that just doesn't make sense happen in the movie based off geography and how things are shot. I don't know where I am in the sense of these big set pieces. Like, the set pieces are nice, but I don't know.
Yeah,
hard.
I tend to agree that there was a problem with spatial relationships in the film and not being able to understand where you were geographically in the movie. I get that, and there were quite a bit of close-ups that it became
Extreme
almost noticeable.
close-ups, too.
I'm saying it became noticeable.
I mean, it was a decision.
Right, but you don't really notice most of the time when you're watching movies.
I mean, it was so much so that it was obviously a conscious decision to do that, and I think it distracted from the movie. I would say that I was not as enamored with Storm Reed's performance as you were. I thought she was okay, but I think that more has to do with the character than her performance.
Right.
I thought her a lot of the dialogue also was very on the nose. Like, I don't fit in because the X, Y, Z, which we didn't talk about this yet on the podcast, but we talked about this before. It was like, what is this? Who is this movie for?
Right.
Is it for adults or is it for kids?
I thought that was the
or is it
biggest
for
issue.
both? If I think it tries to be both, but it doesn't make either.
Yeah, and I'll say that it should have chose one or the other.
Yeah.
It should have chose one or the other because I don't think, there's enough action for kids, for an action adventure for kids. And I don't think, like you said, the material is smart enough to be for adults.
Well, and that sort of on-the-nose dialogue comes in.
Right.
Like, with a kid's movie, that's acceptable. But if you're trying to make it an all-audience movie,
Right.
then it's really just kind of just like, oh, man.
Well, and I'll say this is an anecdote from the theater I was in. I was in a row, bunch of teenagers, probably, I would say 14, 15. Target audience, you would think, for this film. By the end of the movie, none of them were in my row.
Yeah.
Not one of them. And so it kind of that told me that it didn't hit the right notes for them for sure.
Yeah, and I was in a theater too, watching this movie. Granted, I went on a weeknight, but there was a group of teenagers, and they were actually making fun of the movie by the time it was over. So
well, yeah, mine just walked out.
so maybe teenagers weren't the
Yeah.
target audience. Maybe it's more like 10 the tweens or something like that.
Maybe it is, but then some of that audience is not going to understand some of what's talked about.
Exactly. So it really didn't have a good target set for it.
Right. I agree.
So I've talked about some stuff I didn't like.
Right.
There was some stuff I did like. I'll admit that. I did like the scene that was it's in the trailers, so I'm not giving it away. The scene where they're all the kids are bouncing the balls. That was really cool, like the way it looked and stuff. And it was really freaky. But then again, I had no idea why it was there.
Right.
It was not expanded upon at all. As is the next scene that immediately follows that. It's kind of just a weird. Let's put them in weird locations.
Yeah, I mean, it's partially explained. If I could tell you about it, but then it would be spoilers. My explanation for it, which I kind of got.
I kind of understand it, but I didn't think it was.
No, I get you. And one of my things, what I'll say I like about it, I think when it wasn't sort of not giving you good geography, it did have a really nice sort of production design and cinematography.
Yeah, I mean the costumes are great.
Costumes are fantastic. Yeah. And particularly, I think this scene is sort of in the trailer, but the flower, I really like the flowers. At one point, there was this, but then I didn't like.
But there's parts of that scene with the flowers, that whole scene that takes place on that planet, where there's no. They go for a ride.
Well, it becomes problematic the same way you're talking about. It's like they ride for ever, and then they land like.
And then what happens? It doesn't happen to Meg. It happens to Calvin,
right.
Which is not the main character of the movie. And then there's really no consequence for nothing really happens in that scene.
And they seem to land like 30 feet from where they were.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's what I'm saying. Is like nothing insignificant. It's basically they go from one planet or one plane or wherever they're going to the next, and nothing of real significance happens in each one of these things until they get to the end.
Right.
And then she confronts the evil thing.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So really, the whole thing's if it's a story of a journey, she's not gaining any insight into herself. I don't feel that happening.
Well, they
try to.
Yeah,
they try to,
and they try to explain.
Yeah.
They try to explain how this character's growing, but they don't actually show how the character's growing.
Yeah. What is the message of the film? Like,
yeah,
I think the message is that you should be I think, Oprah says, be a warrior. And I think that's the message is like, just be yourself and do things that you don't think you can do, right? Like you are not bowed to whatever society's norms are. But I don't think that message really comes through other than being told.
Right, it's told.
Like,
yes, I agree.
Calvin says, I like your hair, even though she doesn't like it. We're told that. We're told that the girl that's beating up on her has a eating disorder. It's written out on her wall, basically, as her excuse for doing this. Like, nothing is developed through character interactions. Right. It's all developed by being told to us. I
totally agree, and that's why I think that's why it really was meant to be for a younger audience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think the younger audience is going to be able to digest it if they're that young, and they're not, and they're going to be bored if they're not.
Yeah, and I think that also the fact that this book was written, I don't remember 62? When it was written. Yeah, 60s. Yeah. People our age have this nostalgic feeling for it, so it should actually be as for our group as well. Even though I didn't read it, my wife, it's one of my wife's favorite books when she was growing up. Right, so. You need to capture that audience as well. So it's like, I don't think they do a good job of capturing either.
Right. And I never read the book myself either. But yeah, I agree that this should resonate with adult audiences, which I don't see that it's going to. Which, it's funny, and I guess this is where we'll talk a little bit about the fact that it's getting glowing reviews.
Well,
or it's getting positive reviews.
Positive to middling reviews. Like, I think it's still, like, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like a 50 something.
Oh, 50. Well, right.
So there are some good, but it's getting reviews that I feel like, and I don't think this is what where you're going towards, is that people are afraid to criticize it. At least in my opinion.
I think so too. And I don't know, I don't know why that ought to be the case.
Yeah, and I mean, I know why, but I mean, I don't think it should be the case. I mean, like I said when we were talking about, like, Ava DuVernay, she's supposed to be the next big, African American woman director. Mm-hmm. So everybody wants to see her succeed, including me. I would like to see her succeed. Absolutely. But this is not an example of her best work.
And it's funny. We, Eddie, my producing partner, and I were worried that Wrinkle in Time was not going to do well. Mm-hmm. We were very happy about Black Panther, especially that it was doing very well. But we both expressed a little bit of concern about A Wrinkle in Time not doing well. Mm-hmm. Now, the opening frame of the box office wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
But and then also, like, why does it have to do well?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, why are we putting these expectations on it? Why does it have to be this next big thing? Like,
I think that explains the critics not wanting to go hard. Yeah. Is that they have put these expectations on it and her. They put these expectations on her to be this super success and hit a home run every time, whereas any other filmmaker.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about, Steven Spielberg has made shitty movies, and I still think Steven Spielberg is a great director. Absolutely. So why does it have to be, not everything that Steven Spielberg touches is going to turn to gold, and we shouldn't have that expectations for anybody else.
But this is why we're seeing this sort of reluctance to really scratch at a movie that is flawed, is that there's so much expectation in her doing well that the movie has to do well, right?
Well, yeah, and then I think the other thing about it is also not just her, but the fact that it is a very diverse, cast,
right? Which is great.
Which actually diverges from the book, right? Even like her brother is adopted. He's of Asian descent, and you've got Mindy Kaling in there. You got Oprah. You've got. And I did want to point out that some of the acting performances that I did like was, and I'm going to butcher her name. I can never get her name right, but Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Right.
Who was also in...
Selma,
but was also in Cloverfield Paradox.
She was, yes.
Which we mentioned earlier. She was great in this. Like, she, to me, felt the most three-dimensional character of any of them. And I wish I would have saw more of her.
Well, I thought that was one of the other issues with the movie, is that the way that they just sort of disappear and she's out of the picture.
Yeah. But I mean, it's about the kids, right?
I got it, but
it's supposed to be their journey. But I do, like, her reaction to, to the end of the movie. I don't want to give anything away. Is just really heartfelt and makes you really and the fact that she could deliver that performance in the amount of screen time that she has, where she's very, like you said, she's very inconsequential to the rest of the movie. I thought she was really good. I actually thought Zach Galifianakis was part of the. I liked the foray into his character, and I wish I would have learned a little bit more about him.
Yeah, I don't know. I appreciated that he was doing something a lot different.
I appreciated a break from just the rest of the film, I guess.
But I mean, I really respect his performance. I agree with you. I respect his performance in the film because he's doing something, especially near the end of his piece of the film.
Yeah, he's
doing something that you've never seen him do. Before. You know what I mean? Which is great, good on him. But the character itself was a little.
Well, they alluded, but I thought they alluded to stuff, and that it was the one character that actually alluded to what maybe their background might be, and he had a relationship with Reese Witherspoon's character, but you don't really, they kind of dance around it.
Right.
And I just wish there would have been more of that character interaction. It's Mindy Kaling's character just quotes other people. She doesn't say anything. It's part of her character. Yeah. But so you don't get a lot of character development from her. We don't really know anything about Oprah's character other than she likes to be big and, really just a little bit more character interaction might have saved this movie for me.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, I think, we covered it. It's certainly, like I said, the way you present it, I think you're on the same page as me that it's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie. Right?
It's not a bad movie, but I didn't like it.
Right. No, I like it a little, but not enough. And it's funny. I don't usually do this with movies, but I did because I was even concerned about how well it would do. Right. I wanted it to be a good movie, but it wasn't. And then I was trying to gauge why it wasn't by other people's reaction.
Or trying to I've seen people out there trying to defend the fact that they are I didn't really like it. Maybe I need to go see it again to fully appreciate it. It's no, it was just a movie that wasn't that good.
Right. No, I think so.
So, final grade.
I'm going to give it a C.
I'm going to give it a D. It's not a failing grade, but it's not a passing grade.
Right. I got you.
So now we've gone way over on our time. So unfortunately, we'll definitely be cutting the technique topic this month. But,
But we'll get to it. We'll double up next month.
It would have been half-assed anyway. We don't really have anything.
You're not supposed to draw the curtain back that much. Jeez.
All right. So why don't we get on to the movie game?
Yes.
All right. Time for the movie game.
Everybody's favorite segment.
Everybody's talking about the movie game. So for those of you that don't know what the movie game is, we'll explain the rules pretty quickly. Basically, what it is, it's a movie chain. So basically, I can give a name of a movie, and then Martin would have to name an actor from that movie, and then based off that actor, I have to name another movie that actor was in. So, and we keep going until one of us can't answer the other one. The only other rules is you can't name a movie or actor twice in the same chain.
Right.
Although sequels are eligible.
They're permissible.
We do have a thing that we can challenge on a chain if you don't think the other person has an answer. Like if they tried to stump you with something that there's only one actor in the movie or something like that. I don't know any movies like that, but you could technically do that, and you could challenge them. And if they can't answer it, then they lose. And then basically the way we play is we just do best of 3 rounds, so first to 2 wins. So, and that's it.
That's
really
it. Let's do it.
And Martin usually wins, and. So, as the reigning champion, why don't you start?
All right.
Name a film.
I'll name
or a person.
Or a person. How about Gringo?
Gringo is a movie that just came out recently that I don't know much about, and I don't really even know who's in it.
It's totally softball.
Well, I haven't seen it, and I've been working on the Olympics for the past 3 years of my life, and I don't know, somebody's in it that I know, but I can't remember.
There's several people you know.
Is oh God.
I'll give you a hint. Your favorite movie last year.
Movie last year.
You just named it last podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of who would be in it then.
The person who's in your favorite movie.
Charlize Theron?
Yes, thank you.
She's in it? Gringo? Okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Charlize Theron.
Oh, goodness.
Wait. We talk about having to earn this.
Oh, I'm sorry. But we couldn't just let one...
We couldn't do it ace.
We can't
right
do
off
it like
the
an
bat.
ace. Yeah.
Okay, Charlize Theron.
All right, that thing you do.
Is she in that? I guess she was. She was one of the... Okay, that's fine. I know people in... I'm going to say... Ethan Embry.
Ethan Embry. Sweet Home Alabama.
Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, okay. Reese Witherspoon. Fear.
You screwed me there. I don't know that movie.
Oh, okay.
I will challenge. No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to waste my challenge.
Okay, don't do
You
it.
win.
I
You
win.
beat me.
All right.
Who was in it?
Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, that one.
That one.
Oh, yeah. See, it was so that's such a generic title and
I
thing.
know.
It's hard to remember.
Okay.
So okay, well, Martin wins that one
All right.
as
so
usual.
You start. Come on now. Get up. Get up for it.
I'm gonna do I just need get one of these days. I'm just gonna get on IMDb and just go through every single page on IMDb. And okay, so anyway, let's just go on the kick of I'll kick on female directors. Let's do one. Let's do Zero Dark 30.
Zero Dark 30. Jessica Chastain.
Molly's Game.
Ooh. Michael Cera.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Elizabeth Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I could call you on that. No, I'm going to say 10 Cloverfield Lane.
John Goodman.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
John Turturro.
Transformers: The Last Night.
Oh. Is he in the last?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess he is. Boy, oh boy, why would you go there?
Cuba.
Yes, you're right. I forgot. Anthony Hopkins. Sir
Anthony Hopkins. I want to say Westworld, but that's a TV show. So, let me go with it. There was this movie that came out. I don't remember the name of it, so I'm going to say... No, I'm drawing blanks. Silence of the Lambs.
Casey Lemons.
Nah, you screwed me. Why did I go? I knew I shouldn't have gone back that far. That's why I was like... I'm going to challenge you on that one because I don't know.
All right. Well, she was actually in CB4.
Ah.
So...
Everything's connected.
If you think about it, I'm going to try
connected.
and connect it. I'm trying to help you subconsciously, but guess not.
All right. Well, what's the movie that he was in just recently that was filmed in Atlanta, and it had what's his name in it? Colin. Not Colin.
You talking about
Never mind.
Who are you talking about?
Anthony Hopkins.
Oh,
there was a movie. Never mind.
I don't know.
I'm gonna cut all this out.
You're not cutting it out.
I edit this podcast. I can make it sound like I win. No, okay. So, well, that's it. Sorry.
After all the build-up.
I know. I'm sorry.
You've had a rough week.
Otherwise, we're just going to devolve into just babbling.
Yeah.
Which
so you've had a rough week.
We've
so
already
we're
gone
going to
through.
discount that next time. Next month, you're going to be on your game.
Practice.
Okay?
I'm going to
practice. Be on your game. You used to be pretty good at this.
Practice?
Are we talking about
We're
practice?
talking about practice. Not a game. Not a game.
No,
Practice.
You
No, I
used to be
haven't.
good.
I don't know. Something happened. I just
Okay.
my
That's
brain,
why we
my brain's
included
turned
it.
a mess.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so thank you once again for joining us for the CinemATL podcast. We
Yeah.
appreciate you being here, and we'd love to have your input.
Definitely.
We touched on some topics that might be a little bit controversial.
Yes.
We're hoping we're not controversial, but we'd like to hear your opinions on them anyway.
Definitely. And then also, we didn't talk about it earlier. We usually talk about it earlier, but if you're a local filmmaker and you have a project that you want us to talk about, want us to highlight, let us know.
Yeah, the whole industry news section at the beginning.
Yeah,
We would love to
you
have
could be
some more
part of that.
More local.
We talked about a couple of local things.
Indie people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
making
local stuff we talk about. Well, we like to talk about local indie stuff. So, and I don't mean down there. I mean local indie stuff. You know what I mean? So, let us know about your project.
Yep. Let us know about your project.
We'll talk about it. We'll shout it out on the podcast, and other people might know about it.
Give us some feedback, like I said, like on these topics. If you have something to say, let us know online. We'll read it back on our next podcast.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
tell people what you have to say.
Right. If you got
If
issues
you disagree with what we said,
us,
if you
we'll talk
agree
about
with
it.
us, we don't care.
We'll re-explain ourselves, or whatever.
And then always, we'd like, if you like this podcast, please share it.
Yeah, please do.
And like we said before, you can,
And let us
you
know.
can glitter bomb your enemies if you hate
Here's a
us.
question: Are you watching or are you listening? So
That's a
who's
good question.
watching and who's listening?
That is a good question, because we're having an internal debate whether we want to keep doing the video portion of the podcast or just go back to audio.
Right.
So yeah, if you've got opinions on that, let us know.
But again, as always, thanks for coming and listening.
Yeah, and then thank you again to Eureka Failure, who always provides us the music for this podcast. And that's really about it. I guess we'll see you next month. I'm hoping we have a podcast next month. We're hoping we won't have any more skip months. But you never know. The real
At least we
world
skipped the
happens
shortest month.
sometimes. We did, but it was also my birthday month, so I feel bad.
Okay.
I was too busy celebrating my birthday and working, actually. I wasn't actually celebrating my birthday. But anyway, yes, so come back next month, April, and we'll have another podcast for you.
Absolutely.
All right.